Hi, and welcome to Podcash, the portable professional development podcast from Cash. My name's Dawn, and I'm the editor of Cash Alumni, the fastest growing professional network of current and future care and education practitioners. You can join us for free at cashalumni.org.uk and get access to articles from subject specialists, careers advisors, access to job vacancies, and our member benefits scheme.
And today's episode of the podcast was a really nice excuse for me to catch up with a colleague. So, Stacy, if you can tell everyone who you are and why we're talking, then that would be great.
Okay. I'm Stacy Mann. I'm the Early Years and Childcare Specialist for NCFE Cash. Prior to doing this role, I have been working in the early years sector for the last 20 years as a nursery nurse, nursery manager, children's centre manager, and then went on to become an MVQ assessor, tutor, lecturer, and had a real focus on wellbeing and a real interest in promoting positive behaviour. So I went on to become a relaxed kids coach and a charge up coach because my interest in wellbeing just became greater and greater, and I wanted to do something to help in regard to staff wellbeing, parent wellbeing, and the children's wellbeing. So that's me.
That's really exciting. So what is a charge up coach? What did you do?
Okay, so Relax Kids and Charge Up are two separate programs. Relax Kids is mindfulness, really, mindful activities for children aged from 3 all the way through to adults. And what we found with Relax Kids, you go through 7 steps to relaxation. So very good for today's session actually on self-regulation, because it's about how you can take children from high energy and bring them all the way down to complete relaxation. So we start with playing and moving, getting the children sort of out of their minds and into their bodies, and we do lots of stretching. So they're yoga-esque stretches, but we do them according to the theme that we're doing. So for example, if we were doing it about animals, we'd get the children to stretch in an animal way and just make it really relevant to them. Then we would go on to feel, which is massage. So we do things like tapping. We do prior to the pandemic, we did peer-on-peer massage, where they might draw things on each other's backs and things like that to calm the nervous system. And then we would go on to positive affirmations, so the children would be saying nice things about themselves and each other. And then we would have some relaxation, so guided visualizations really. So they lie down on the floor, we might have some gentle music playing, they might do some grounding, and then I would read them a guided visualization to calm their bodies and relax. And then Charge Up was sort of born out of that, and Charge Up is very much for teens, young people, and I've found worked very well with parents as well and staff who are working with children. And so Charge Up works on the same sort of premise as Relax Kids, but it's a bit of a grown-up flavour, so we do more about the whys. So why are we doing movement? Why are we stretching? Why are we doing all of these things? And for parents, when I've done it as a parent programme, it's then had an impact on the children, of course, because in terms of self-regulation, as the adult in the child's life, we need to know how to self-regulate before we can help them to self-regulate, so we can co-regulate.
Yeah, and I think that's really important when people talk about like children's behaviour and all of that sort of stuff, is that actually in a lot of ways that can be instigated by parents. If you're shouting at your child, then you can't really be surprised that they either cry or shout back. And actually, I've been really lucky because I've been able to talk about self-regulation for the podcast with Minnie Youngfire in the past. So when we're talking, there will be things I keep referring back to in that conversation, because it's fascinating how we interact as a species and actually how much of an impact we can have on each other's behaviour. I I think we see that a little bit at the minute. Everyone's got a different home situation in the pandemic, and a lot of us are working from home, or pre-press and record where we're talking about those learning environments and how actually some kids aren't in the classroom because they're isolating or they're in their own home environments. And we need to think a little bit more at the minute about what other people's situations are. I've had meetings where my colleagues have been playing with their kids at the same time as talking to me about stuff, and it's nice, I think, to get a little bit of a glimpse as to what other people are navigating at home in terms of that environment, and either being able to help them to negotiate it by moderating how we interact with them, or take things from that and go, oh, actually, that's a really good idea. I might do X, Y, or Z whilst I do this.
Really good idea, isn't it? I think staff in particular, when you're working in schools and working in settings, you do really long hours, and they're tiring hours, and I often refer to it as emotional labour, because you're so emotionally invested in these children that you're caring for, whether you're the parent or the adult in a setting or in a school. You are emotionally involved with these children, and you really love them and want them to thrive and want them to succeed. And you're so right that in this time, everybody you see, even if you're walking down the street, everybody you see has an element of fight, flight or freeze in them. And during the pandemic, I thought it was even more important to have a toolkit to tap into, where you could say, do you know what, I'm not feeling great right now, let me go and just tap into one of those tools that you've got in your toolkit. I'm very lucky, I feel, I'm very grateful that I have those tools in my toolkit, but I was really conscious that during lockdown in particular, that there's many adults, many parents who haven't got these tools, and children need these tools from day one. And if they haven't got that from the parents, if the parents don't know how to self-regulate, if the adults that are working with the children don't know how to self-regulate, then we can't expect our children to have positive behaviour and concentration and a happy mood all the time, because they have bad days too, and they are picking up on our energies constantly. And I'm a really strong believer in picking up on other people's energies and sharing our oxytocin and all that sort of thing, because you do have a massive impact on the people that are around you.
So you've got to walk into any office in the country, on a normal day to be able to know that, you walk in and you immediately get a sense of the room, or something's happened, or we've all walked into a room and known that we're not welcome at some point in our lives, that we do get things in the air almost that we can't necessarily yet explain.
Yeah, that's true, and the children pick up on that. I know my children do. My children are 7 and 6, and some days it can get to sort of the afternoon and I think, what is the matter with my children today? What's up with them? They're not behaving in the way that they normally behave. They're really angry. They're losing their temper really quickly, and I immediately go within. I immediately think, oh, hang on, it's not them. This is not what they have got going on. Maybe I am projecting something that's going on with me. And once I self-reflect or take myself out of that situation and breathe, or take my shoes off and stand outside and ground, which I do a lot of, I think actually they're picking this up from me, and I need to self-regulate, go back to them, be calm with them, and it can change the whole day around. It really can. And I think the more that we are aware of that, I think self-awareness within self-regulation is really, really important for the adults. Is how do you self-regulate? If you ask a room of people, which I have done on many occasions, how do you self-regulate? A lot of the adults in the room cannot tell you.
I've been able to tell you this time like a year and a half ago. Like I'm 33. I'll be 34 in December. And I definitely wouldn't, not only not have known in terms of not understood the terminology or not being able to answer your question, but I think it was an alien concept. Like, it wasn't something that I'd ever had an awareness of. And I think for the vast majority of people, really, the idea that that's how it works is a step of thinking too far, if that makes sense, because it's all about how you feel in that moment, and you react or respond based on how you feel. And if someone says something and it makes you feel anxious, or it makes you feel attacked, or it makes you feel a certain way, then that is how they made you feel, and that is how you respond. And I think that it having, you know, the tools or the awareness of actually, I felt attacked because I feel a bit sensitive about this thing, and just being able to sort of piece why I feel like that together before I respond to things has had a massive positive impact on personal relationships, but also like in a work environment. You know, like I take feedback and criticism much better now than I might have done even just a couple of years ago, because when that criticism is given, I can see it for what it is, and I can see it for the helpful, supportive, I want you to do this way because it will be the best for you, rather than that's rubbish, do it like this. You know, like you feel differently about things once you're aware of how or why you feel the way you feel about them. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, that's right. It's your emotional intelligence, isn't it? And I think emotional intelligence is something that everybody seems to be much more aware of, which is great. And in the workplace, I think practitioners should be learning about emotional intelligence, because if we've got early learning goals for personal, social, and emotional development in the new framework that actually says self-regulation, we need to know what that is. We need to be able to do it ourselves. We need to be able to model it to the children and share that information far and wide, because we can argue against these early learning goals coming into play. We can argue against it and debate about it and campaign against it, or we can learn about what it means and deliver it in the best way that we can, because ultimately it's coming in. You know, it is already out there. It's in the early adopter stages, and people are using the framework already. And so we need to really educate ourselves about what self-regulation is and how we can work on ourselves so the children see that. And I've seen with my own children, being a relaxed kids coach, you know, and I'm not perfect in any way, shape or form. None of us are, and I still have my moments, and I still have.
You're human, aren't you?
Yeah, we all, and I also think the children need to see that as well. That it's okay to lose it sometimes. You don't have to be balanced all the time.
That's a really good point in that. Personally, I think we've seen that in our family fairly recently. I lost my grandma a few months ago, and we've always been really rubbish at open like feelings. In that I grew up and I was always told how important it was to be able to cry or to be able to show me feelings but actually I can't do that. And it's not because I wasn't told it was important or told it was okay. It's because whilst my mum was telling us it was okay, she was also pretending everything was okay, and she wasn't doing that. And that's something I'm learning sort of very, very recently, that because I've got an 11-year-old niece, like we were talking about before, and she needs to know it's okay to not be okay. So we're all like really now that, again, like looking at self-regulation and looking at co-regulation and looking at how kids learn stuff and how kids react to stuff. Me going, but it's okay, it's all very well and good saying it, we've got to all do it, like, you know, and try to convince them all that.
That's it. That's made me go all goose pimply, Dawn. Honestly, it's so true, isn't it? That, you know, as a parent as well, I'm sort of reflecting on that in my mind already.
One of the reasons that I find that open display of emotions difficult now, I've reflected on it, and I've you know, had that space to go, why can't I do this? One is that I was never shown it, but also it's that I feel quite a high emotional, like a responsibility for other people's emotional burden once they see that I'm sad.
Yeah.
And once someone sees that I'm sad and I make them sad, then I stop thinking about how I feel.
Yeah.
So for me, sometimes it's better to do that in the shower and have a cry by myself, where I can actually allow myself to continue. It's, I suppose, like selfishly and self-indulgently, you know, like if I want to really feel sad and I really want to let myself feel it, then I'm better off not doing that in front of other people, because I'm the sort of person who it immediately stops being about me then. And I think she needs to know that that's okay too, that it's
really,
that makes sense, that it's
it makes total sense. And I think this goes way back to when children are babies and they're crying, and our first instinct as an adult is to stop the crying. You know, we need to stop them crying, and actually sometimes you need to cry, and sometimes that's the best way to get it out. As adults, we need to be comfortable around that, in settings in
like
particular.
That's the bit, isn't it? As adults, how do we know?
I think that's all about your attachment with that child. I think as you get to know that child, you get to know what works for them, what doesn't work for them, and what they need. And practitioners are with children for such a long time that they do get to know the different cries and what is needed, and I think taking a step back and thinking, am I needed here, or can they do this but by themselves? You can sort of reflect in the moment. My two children are completely different when it comes to their emotions. You have Zara, who's my youngest, she's 6, and if she's having a cry, she wants to do it by herself. And through trial and error of cuddling her, being near her, doing everything that I knew how to do to calm her down, I had to completely reinvent it all because it wasn't working for her. And she would literally kick and scream and push me away, which as a mum, I was just like, oh my goodness, she must not love me, you know, just sort of really selfishly thought, oh my goodness, why isn't she bonding with me? When really all she needed was for me to leave her alone for a second and just say, sweetheart, I'm here when you need me.
Yeah, I did a few months of a social work degree back in my early 20s. One of the first things that I was taught within that few months was that the main question you should always ask yourself in any interaction as a social worker is, who am I doing this for? Yeah. Is this for me or is this for them? Like, who's this going to make feel better? And that's the sort of core of all of those interactions that I now have as a mental health first aider, as just a general nice person.
Yeah, and trust the children, you know, give them some credit. You know, a lot of the time, I think, especially under 5s, because they haven't been given, you know, all the tools already, that they just instinctively know what to do. I mean, if you've ever watched a baby or a toddler rolling around on the floor, they get into yoga positions by themselves because they know that feels good to their body, and they are self-regulating in that moment. They are calibrating or recalibrating all of the chemicals, all of the hormones in their bodies, because they instinctively know how to do yoga poses. What we've seen from programs in the past, such as Super Nanny, where there's been a strategy put into place, and in an edited program we've seen success, or what they deem to be success is a child conforming to what they've asked them to do and following instructions and listening and all of that sort of thing. Some of the techniques that have been taken from that are quite damaging, you know, leaving children to cry for long periods of time, you know, the whole naughty step thing, and a real sort of disattachment and not co-regulating at all. It can be damaging, but it does open conversations, you're right. And I think if we take the right things from those conversations and try to improve our practice, not only as parents but as practitioners as well. And I think practitioners, whether you have got your own children or you haven't got your own children and you work in early years, just an understanding that behaviour is communication, and what can I do about this? How can I support this child? How can I help them to learn from this? What tools can I give them? What does the environment look like? And sort of going back to the environment from the start of our conversation about having a space, to just go and have a lie down. If you're tired, you don't have to be stimulated for the whole 12 hours that you might be at nursery, or 10 hours that you might be at nursery. Having an area where you can go and lie down and you can access things that are going to soothe you, like a mermaid material pillow, for example. The mermaid material where you stroke the sequins and they change colour. A lot of children find those very soothing, and if you've got something like that, as well as other tools in that environment for the children to access and to calm down with, and to do some breathing and to do some tapping, maybe do a little bit of massage in there. You could get the children to run the cars all over their arms and things like that. Loads and loads of different tools and techniques, physical tools, tangible tools that you can use all the time, but also things that you've got with you all the time, like your breath. And breathing is the number one self-regulation technique, for us to be able to deeply breathe in and out and show the children how to do that is really, really important, both inside and outside. I see a lot of settings who have got an indoor quiet area where the children might be able to go and relax, but not always outside. And some children prefer to be outside and lie on the grass and look up at the sky and watch the clouds.
Actually, I got overwrought in those overhead lights, and that I was really, really overstimulated by the time it came to break time. So the idea of going and having a run around and playing with other kids and socialising and having that, I needed a bit of introvert time to sort myself out. But the encouragement was always to go and get outside, run off some steam, go and do it. And actually there wasn't an option to go and sit by yourself, because then you were the weird kid, you were very much encouraged to go and join in.
Absolutely. And I think for learners that are going into early years and becoming practitioners in the early years sector or in education, it's okay to be the quiet nursery practitioner, early years practitioner, early years educator. It's okay to be that. We need all sorts of different practitioners, diverse practitioners, because I think there is this, when I've spoken to learners about this, they're like, oh, well, I'm quite quiet to work with children. I'm not sort of all jazz hands and all singing, all dancing, and you don't all have to be like that. It takes lots and lots of different practitioners to support the children, and for them to see that in an adult, for the children to see that in an adult is so crucial to their self-esteem, their self-confidence, to know it's okay to be quiet, and it's okay. And maybe if the environment lent itself to that, if you went out into the playground and there was an area that was, like a den, pleasing to the eye, but you can go in and you can be quiet. And even practitioners and educators saying that's the quiet area, let's not, because I've seen a few promoting positive environments on my travels where they've had a lovely quiet area. It's been wonderful. It's got all of these bits and pieces in there. It's got lovely books and things for you and it says quiet to you, this is the relaxing area. And then on the back of that, they've got the musical instruments, or right next to it, they've got the role play area. What is it communicating to the children, and how can we ensure that they have some space to let those emotions go? And it's not about us going, you're feeling angry, and picking them up and putting them in that space. It's about them being able to access that space themselves, and the practitioners modelling that. I'm if I'm feeling really anxious or I'm feeling really angry, and I think that language is important as well. I'm feeling that way. It's not who I am. I'm just at this moment in time, I might be feeling angry. Say to the children, I'm feeling a little bit angry at the moment. I'm feeling a little bit frustrated. I'm going to go and lie over here for a moment, lie down on the floor and really model that behaviour. And when I've done that with my own children, they've seen me get the mermaid material pillow in the house or they've brought it to me. Mum, you look a bit stressed. Do you want the mermaid material pillow, or do you want this? Do you want to go and lie down?
See, like that, you're having a giggle, and it sounds like, because you feel like it sounds weird, but it's not. And actually, we need to do more of that as grown-ups as well. It's not just about self-regulation being something we need to teach children. It's about co-regulation only being able to happen if we both do it. And actually, the vast majority of grown-ups, going back to what we said earlier on, don't even recognise that it's a thing, that we could be in that loop in our head where we feel that way, not because of what's going on, but because of something that happened a few days ago, or because of the way we felt when we woke up this morning, or the way that we started our day. One of my colleagues in the marketing team noticed that I'm a really tactile person in the way that I deal with my excess mental energy at work, or like sitting and having something to play with. As I'm talking to you now, I'm sitting playing with the gemstones that live on my desk, because they're nice little smooth surfaces to sort of sit and feel. I've got a worry stone that's very similar, and my colleague brought me in a pom-pom from our wedding because she'd noticed that I like to sit and play with things, and she brought me in a pom-pom so that I had something to sit and fiddle with at my desk. And I think that recognition that it's okay, again, going back to how we were taught as children and how things have moved on in recent understanding of how people work. Doodling while the teacher was talking was an you're not listening, where actually sometimes it's about processing information, and it is better to have that focus, especially for kids now where they've actually grown up as digital natives and their brain pathways have developed differently because they are doing two things at once, in terms of sitting playing on their phone while the telly's on, and they are taking in two different streams of information. And I think it's important as educators to recognise that not everyone's brain works the way that yours does, and that they might actually concentrate better sitting having a doodle like we do in meetings as grown-ups.
Really powerful, isn't it, to just think of it from somebody else's point of view. And you saying that then took me right back to when I first started teaching 12 years ago, and I had a learner who in a 16 to 18 year old environment, she just kept clicking her pen and tapping the table. And even back then, because I was really irritated by it, and I remember thinking, I need to do something for her. She's obviously a kinesthetic learner. She obviously needs to be moving while she's writing. What can I do? Rather than just be irritated by her. And I got her some blue tack, and I just gave it to her at the beginning of the second week. And I just gave her a little lump of blue tack, and she looked at me in a really strange way at first, but she never clicked her pen again in the classroom. And she was listening. She didn't need to take notes. She didn't need to discuss it necessarily, but she was absorbing everything. And by the end of that 10 weeks, she had really absorbed everything that we talked about. And I wonder, had I not given her that blue tack, or had I took the pen off her in the first week and showed her how irritated I was, that what that would have done to her learning, how that would have changed her learning. Then if we apply that into the early years, there's a lot of situations where we could think about what the children are doing and change what we're doing. If you've got a child in front of you that is fidgeting, is the carpet comfortable? Have you sat on that floor yourself?
That when I was an early years learner myself, which admittedly is a very long time ago, there was that sit properly. We all have to sit in a uniform way. Actually, as a child who at the time had an undiagnosed connective tissue disorder, sitting cross-legged on the floor with my arms folded was really uncomfortable. But being able to lie semi-supine or sit, with my legs out at ridiculous angles, or, was much more comfortable and much more, therefore, conducive to me having a good education and actually being able to concentrate and learn.
Yeah, Definitely, and even, you know, that's even more poignant right now, isn't it, when things are feeling a little bit different at home, and even the most emotionally intelligent of people who have you know, live a really balanced life and are able to self-regulate and all have those tools in their toolkit are struggling. The one thing that I was going to mention that I didn't, and I think really helps me as an educator, as a parent, and as our family, is we do something called the Smile Score. It was created by Dr. Laura Vater, and she created it for adults. However, I think it can be adapted for children, staff, everybody. And it works on the acronym of SMILE. So it's looking at what your well-being is like on a day. So for example, we'll do the Smile Score on the walk from school. So if I can see my children's well-being isn't particularly high, or I feel like my well-being isn't particularly high, I'll quickly do the Smile Score. So the Smile Score is, S is for sleep. Have you had enough sleep? Have you had enough rest? And you know, what quality of that quality of sleep and rest. M is for movement. Have you moved your body today? Have you exercised? Have you done some physical activity? I is for inhale, exhale. So have you took some really good deep breaths today and not just been breathing, you know, automatically? Have you taken some mindful breaths? L is for love and connection, which is about, have you connected with another person today? Have you given love? Have you received love? Have you connected with somebody else? And that's probably more important than it has been before. And E is for eat to nourish. So have you eaten to nourish your body today? Have you drank some water? You know, because I think sometimes when you're in autopilot and you're just getting on with your day and you're so busy that sometimes you forget, don't you? You just think, oh, I don't feel quite right. Oh, I haven't had any water this morning, or whatever it might be that's missing. So you give yourself 1 point per acronym. So you could get 5 out of 5, in which case you're probably feeling pretty positive. Your well-being's probably very high. And then if you've sort of got under 3, you're probably not feeling so great. And you can do something that the key to it is that you can then tweak it. So if we walk home from school and I say to the children, what's your Smile Score today? And they go through it and they might say 3. I think, right, what can we do to help you, support you for the rest of the day? So it might be that they haven't done some good inhale, exhale. So we'll go outside in the garden and we'll do some breathing, or we'll have some water, or we'll have some fruit, or we'll have something that's going to give them a little boost. Or if I know they haven't slept well the night before, we'll do something relaxing in the evening, you know, and you can just tweak it for yourself as an individual, for your family, for the children that you work with, for your staff team. You know, if the whole team is feeling pretty low, what can we do to boost it, and just adjust it accordingly.
That's really great. And you talked about sleep in there in terms of like that being one of the 5. And one of the things that I found, like, I suppose a little bit interesting about that is that if you haven't had very much sleep the night before, that you'll do something relaxing in the evening and bring that down. And one of the things that I've learned, again, as a grown-up, I sound like a dead late learner with all this wellbeing stuff, but as a grown-up, is that I always thought that I had some sort of insomnia, I didn't sleep very well. I would honestly have told you that I function best on 4 to 5 hours sleep, like, and that more than that is no good. I just feel unwell, like, and that's best. That's the way that my body works, and that's great. And I didn't recognise how tired I was, because that adrenaline would kick in and sort of bring us back to life again.
Yeah, I totally agree. And have you fixed your sleep? How much sleep do you get now?
Really well now. I go to bed at latest 10 o'clock, and then I'm up again at 6 or 7. So lovely. I get ridiculous amounts of sleep. It's great.
I am pleased.
And conversely, I get more done. I'm much more productive now that I sleep properly, rather than working longer and getting less sleep.
Yeah, we need the rest as well, don't we? We need, it's okay. So I get up most days between sort of 4:30 and 5, and I'm most productive at that time of day. But by about Thursday, my alarm will go off at 4:30, and I'll lie in bed and I ask myself the question, what does your body need today? And usually the answer on a Thursday is more sleep. And even if I just stay in bed and have a bit more rest, it helps. It helps with the productivity. It helps with my emotional mood. It just helps with everything, because I can cry over nothing at the best of times, but even more so when I'm tired. I get to that really overtired. I go two ways. I either get overtired and emotional and just cry, or I get overtired and a bit hyperactive and just, run around like a buzzy bee. So
yeah, I think we've all
self-awareness is key.
It really is.
Just having an understanding of self-regulation and having the self-awareness, having some emotional intelligence, and working on that as your own personal development is going to impact on the children, and that can only be positive. Really can.
I totally agree. Where can people find out a little bit more about self-regulation and about sort of the impact that they have on either the children that they work with or the people around them in general?
There's lots and lots of different things that you can access online. The Dr. Stuart Shanker Self-Regulation Centre is full of lots of different resources that you can download for free. There's lots of courses on there as well. Then, of course, we've got Minay. I worked with Minay on her toolkit, and my children are actually on the app. They do the breathing techniques and they do the tapping techniques on her app. Keep Your Cool toolkit, and so that's there as a free app to download, and there's lots of things on there. You have also got the Relax Kids website. Relax Kids have got coaches in the area that do classes for settings and for in the community, and do one-to-one, and they have moved on to using Zoom, but as well as that, they have got lots of guided visualization books that you can purchase on there, and CDs, and there's also lots of downloads. They also do free downloads on the Relax Kids website for Keep Your Calm, Back to Your Calm, with lots of different tools, ideas, diaries, journals, you name it, it's on there, in regard to positive affirmations and guided visualizations to help you return to that calm. There's also Dr. Dan Siegel as well. There's lots of YouTube clips if you're a bit more of you'd rather watch than read. There's lots on YouTube on self-regulation. Minay's done some podcasts on there and so there's quite a lot of stuff out there, and I think it's finding how you learn best and accessing those little bits, but also there are tools that you can use rather than just reading around it and understanding it. There are tools that you can download and use in your home as a parent and in the setting as an educator.
It's been really, really nice to talk to you. Obviously, we also have some neuroscience in early years qualifications. So if people did want to do some more sort of bigger learning or wanted to do some qualifications around all of the stuff that we've been talking about, there are now some qualifications at level 2 and at level 4. And if you just wanted to explore some stuff, there's some stuff on Cash Alumni and in all of the places that Stacey's mentioned as well. But yeah, it's been really, really lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning.
And thanks to you at home. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Podcash. Don't forget, for more great content tailored to everyone in the care and education sectors, you can join our membership network, cashalumni.org.uk. It's free to join, and you'll get access to articles from subject specialists, careers advice, job vacancies, and our member benefits scheme. If you'd like to feature on a future episode of Podcash, please get in touch with us through the contact details on the Cash Alumni website. Until next time, take care.